Namaste everyone. Welcome to the 20th session of Advaita Aparokshanubhuti offered by Binduji. Above is the link for text from Swami Vimuktananda, and that is a word-to-word translation in English. There is another link for the text from the scholar Vidyaranya, which is all in Sanskrit. That's also Aparokshanubhuti text. So this recording of these sessions is a new schedule that we have shifted to because Binduji has shifted his location to Australia. So we'll be starting at 6:30 IST on Monday. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. With that, over to Binduji.
Thank you, Prakash. Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrabhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Śruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Īśvaro Gururatmiti Murtibheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Aparokshanubhuti. Sri Harim Paramanandam Ubadeshtaram Īśvaram Vyapakam Sarvalokanam Karanam Tam Namamyaham. In the last class we did the verse number 45. Upadanam prapañcasya brahmanaha na anyaha na vidyate. Tasmat sarva prapanchoyam brahmaivasti na cha itaret. So it is saying that since the cause for the creation, phenomenal universe, so the material cause for the phenomenal universe is nothing but except Brahman, and therefore the whole universe has to be nothing other than Brahman was some summary of that verse which we studied in the last class, where we saw that the hetu or the reason behind why the statement is being repeated that everything is Brahman is not without any reason. The reason is behind all this was stated earlier also, but is being concluded here that as the upadana, mean material cause. The entire universe straight from Akasha to the physical body. That is how the Taittiriya Upanishad mentions it. Tasmat etasmad Atmana Akasha Sambhutaha. From that Brahman, Atmanha Brahman is Akasha Sambhuta. Akasha has been created. Akasha means space or ether. From there then this ladder up to the physical body has been narrated in the Taittiriya Upanishad. And therefore Brahman alone is the material from which it is coming, and what comes out from mud has to be made of mud, and what has come out of gold has to be made of gold. Same way, what has come out of Brahman has to be Brahman only. So the whole world, which is in the form of names and forms which we are transacting with, has come from that. Therefore, that is not different from Brahman. Thereby, it is refusing or refuting the proponents who are on atomic theory like the Neha Vaisheshika and Sankhya philosophy, who says that Prakriti is different from Purusha. There is two separate entities called Prakriti and Purusha, or the one which is the Chaitanya aspect, and Prakriti is the inert material of the world. So therefore these two, when they come together, the world is formed, is the Sankhya philosophy. That is also being refuted here. Now we'll go to the 46th verse, which says that Vyapya Vyapakata Mithya Sarvam Atmedi Shasanat Iditnyate Pare Tattve Vedasya Avasara Kuta. Sarvam means everything. Atma iti. is Atma alone. Atma and Brahman are the same. There is no two different forms. Shasanat, the word Shasanat comes from the declaration of the Śruti. It is quoting the Upanishad. Vyapya Vyapakata, that is the pervader and the pervaded. These are the two things. One is pervading and what is it? That are two. They have to be separate. If I am entering a room, I have to be separate, and the room has to be separate. So here, the Vyapya Vyapakata, mithya has to be understood that it is imagined or not real. Iti pare tatve jnate. Once this truth is known, this supreme truth is known, where can there be a distinction between the world and Brahman? Because the world, the Brahman is exactly the fundamental reality from which all these appearances are coming. It is referring to the Upanishad, Brihadaranya Upanishad, like that. The Vidyaranya Muni says that Nanu Vyapya Vyapakata Rupe Bede Jagrati Sati Katam Prapañcasya Brahmata iti Ashankya Vyapya iti. Now, if the opponent is asking Nanu, if Vyapya Vyapakata Rupe Beda Jagrati, in the waking, we have the difference between the observer and the observed, or pervader and the pervaded, the knower and the known. All type of differences are there, Veda. Then how can this Katam Prapañcasya Brahmata? How can this prapañca or this world, which is an object and the subject, this subject-object be one and the same? Well, now you are refuting this differentiation between the two. How can it is? The answer is in the Vyapya iti. That what does the Vyapya iti in the sloka, in the verse, what is being at? That Vyapya mithya eva. This Vyapya Vyapakata, the assumption of the pervader and the pervading, is a false reality. It is not a real thing. This subject-object experience of ours also is due to a false separation created by the mind, that I am the subject, everything else is an object. So that is why it is said mithya is illusory. Now, how does that happen? Vyapyam andaram, vyapakam bahyam. Tayo bheda mithya gada akashadivat kalpidatvad asat ityartha. Vyapyam, the pervaded, means the world. No, the Vyapyam means the world. Andaram, Vyapakam. The pervader is inner. And pervaded is Andaram and pervading is external. Tayo Veda, the relation between the two is illusory. I think there is a mistake here. Vyapyam, Vyapakam. Vyapakam means the one which is pervaded. Vyapyam is the one which is pervading. Vyapyam is Andaram. The pervading is internal, and Vyapakam, what is being pervaded, is Bahyam. Tayo Vedaha Nityaeva. That is the difference. Like Ghada Akashadivat Kalpidatvad Asatityartha. Ghada Akashadivat. There is the two things like Akasha and the Ghada, mean the pot and the space. There is a relationship between the pot and the space. There is inside the pot, there is a space. There is outside also, there is space. Ghatakasha and Matakasha or Mahakasha. What is the typical example in the textbooks of the Prakarana books, which is mentioned that the space inside the pot is separated by a false limitation which we see due to the shape of the pot, and therefore we say that the pot can contain material like water or grains, etc. whereas the space outside is visibly separate from that. When I am filling up the pot, only the pot in space is getting filled up, not the entire space. But if we really analyze that, we will find out that the space has never been displaced or occupied or anything. The grains or the water also was occupying space. The pot space inside this thing is space. The pot is also using space for its own existence. Everything is depending upon the outer Maha Akasha, or the outer space, which is the basic substratum for everything to appear and occupy. So in that, if we move some water from one jar to another jar, we are not emptying the space from the jar which is getting filled up. But we get a feeling that that space is now occupied by water. No, the space was even before occupied by water, which was there in another jar, is now being seen inside this new jar. So there is no displacement of space which is taking place. The space was occupied by water and it is now being occupied water. What it was there in some other place and now moved into this place. Now in the space, when we move one thing to another space, does the space move? That is what the question we have to ask and analyze it. The space has no motion. That is why we say that there is no movement in the space taking place. So that is the reason why we say it is kalpitatva, means just an imagination. Therefore, it is not ultimately real. Asatityartaha means this feeling we have that, the pot is having space, it is now filled with water. That whole analogy, we can understand that it is a false imagination. Tattar pramanam aha sarvam iti. So for that, in the word sarvam is used in the shloka. And what does the sarvam? Everything is being indicated. It is indicated in the Brihadaranya Upanishad, 2nd chapter, 4th section and 6th verse. Brihadaranya Upanishad 2, 4, 6. Idam Brahma, idam Shatram, idam Prakritya, idam Sarvam, yat ayam Atma. Iti Śruti Rupandara Rupa Īśvara Ātman Brahman ityartha. So this is what you call declaration by the Upanishad. In that Upanishad, what it is saying that this Brahman, this Kshatriya, all this is not that what you think, but they're all very self itself. See, this is what it is, the support of the Śruti, which is being referred here in the Brihadaranya Upanishad. Sarvam means everything, which includes the every being in this world. Prakritya, by essence or naturally, idam sarvam yat ayam atma. All this is essentially Atma or Brahman. Ityadi Śruti Rupa Īśvara Ātman Brahman. Īśvara Ātman Brahman means it is the authority of the Śruti. Śruti is Īśvara Proktam, is what is being passed on by Īśvara to us at the beginning of the Kalpa, is the big faith which these karma kandins are keeping in their mind. So this verse is being addressed to them for their purpose. So that is why it is said Īśvara Ātman Brahman, Śruti Rupa. It is in the form of scriptural statements. What is that? Idam Brahma, idam Chatram, sarvam idam, I am Atma. That is what the shloka says that. Tataha kim ata aha iti jnate ityadi sugamam. Tata kim means what follows that. Idam, everything is Brahman, is a statement from the Śruti. But what good does it make for me? How will I know that? How will it make an effect in me that, I am not different from the object? My experience is that I am the subject and everything in the world is an object. And this is not going to change by me we see the Śruti or the Upanishad saying that everything is Atma. That is a statement in the Upanishad. So, but how does it affect me, help me? Iti jnate. It's in the Chandogya Upanishad 6.1.3, where it says that knowing this, where the father asks the son, did you know Ajna Balat? That is, which is the instruction by the teacher. Did you know that? Knowing which, there is nothing more to be known. Hearing it's up, everything becomes heard, like that. So everything becomes your own knowledge or your own awareness. That is why iti jnate, that word is very important. By this knowledge of which yat jnatva sarvamitam vijñādam bhavati, by which this knowledge, everything in this world becomes known as your own self. It doesn't say that by knowing this, I will know your mind, or I will know what is inside a jar, which is inside a box, or anything like that. That is not the one which is everything. What does it mean? Everything means the substance of everything, or the essence of everything, is nothing but Atma. They have different names and forms and qualities, which will be the reason why the transactional world, the differences are being felt. But the differences are depending on a substratum without which these differences do not exist. That is just like that, without the mud, the pot cannot exist. Without the gold, the ornaments cannot exist. Without the water, the layers, the waves and the froth, etc. cannot exist. Same way, without awareness, neither do I exist, nor do the objects of the world exist. It is only when the awareness starts projecting, I am becoming separate and the world becoming separate, but it is both coming from the upadanam eka eva. The material cause is the same. The same material from which now I get a feeling that I am aware of, and the same material from which every object is being aware to me as an object. That awareness or the consciousness or the knowledge which is present in both the subject and object is the very reason why that everything is made of the same material. Now, this is the Chandogya Upanishad, the verse is Athata Atma Adesha Atmaiva Adastad Atmaiva Uparishtad Atmaiva Paschad Atmaiva Purastad Atma Dakshinataha Atmottarataha Atmaivedam Sarvamiti. This is Sanat Kumara telling Narada. Therefore, Atma Adesha, the instruction from Atma itself is that Evam Atma Adastad. This Atma, what you have now understood, what I have told you about, is there below. Atma Uparishtad is there above. Atma Paschad is there behind you. Atma Purastad, Atma is in the front. Dakshinata means in the right. Uttarata means left. Atma evam idam sarvam. Everywhere what you see, turn around or look, it is your own Atma which is seeing yourself, everything, everywhere. But the nature of yourself and the nature of everything what you see is the same. The qualities and adjectives which are they differentiating between you and the world is a illusion or a superimposition onto the essence called Atma, or that is what the Śruti says. Then we will come to verse number 47. Śrutya nivaridam nunam nanatvam tvamukhena hi katam baso bhavedanyaha sthite cha advaya karane. Nunam means again the same thing, certainly. Tvamukhena hi, this is the assertion that it is directly Śrutya nanatvam nivaritam. Directly the Śruti is denying the possibility of multiplicity. That is quoting another Upanishad. Is denied. Advaya karane, for the dual cause of existence. Which is therefore Advaya karane means the non-dual cause is thereby established by the Śruti saying that neha nanasti kinchana. Katam bhasaha anyaha bhaved. How can, if when that is that the dictum from the Upanishad, and it is when we learn that, when we identify with that teaching, how can there be multiplicity of the world and individual and the world is what being questioned here. So in this verse we will see that Śruti has directly mentioned that there is no chance for multiplicity or here available in this one. The Vidyaranya commentary is very descriptive. Nanu pratyakshena bhasamano vyapya vyapaka bhavaha kadam mitya iti asankya aha Śruti iti. If pratyakshena bhasamana, everybody's direct experience is that vyapya vyapaka bhavaha, the separation between the subject and object. That is undeniably the experience of everyone. Kadam mitya iti, how can this be an illusion? Iti asankya, if that is your doubt, Śrutya iti, it is because the Śruti is saying it again. Nunam iti nischayehi iti prasiddhau Śrutya neha nanasti kinchana ityadi rupaya ityarthaha. Nunam means indeed or certainly. Iti nischayehi, because of the certainty with which the Upanishad is telling that. And it is prasiddhau Śrutya. It's very well known quote, which often quoted by everyone in Advaita about this particular verse of Chandogya, 6th chapter, 2nd section, 1st mantra. You will find that neha nanasti kinchana. There is no plurality whatsoever in this world. All what we are seeing is nothing but awareness or consciousness. Other than viveka or the knowledge or our nature of awareness is the only reality what is there. There is no multiplicity here whatsoever. Nanatvam nivaritam tenacha nanatva nivarane advaya karane abhinne nimitta upadane brahmani sthite sati. Upadana karane brahmane sthiti. That is when upadana karana or the substratum, when it is brahmani, when it is Brahman, and the Brahman is the one which is now the nimitta or the cause for the multiplicity, and that is abhinna. Abhinna means that which is non-different as efficient and material at any point of time. So there is no real creation which is happening. It is only an apparent creation which is happening in the Brahman. That is the reason why nanatva nivarane. When the nanatva nivaritam means when the multiplicity is denied by the negation from the statement of the Upanishad, in Brahman there is both the material and intelligent cause, both being one and the same. He or it is being itself becoming many. So the same thing is told in the Ajayamano Bahuda Vijayate in the Purusha Suktam. There are many other places you will find this type of statements in the Shastra that Brahman alone is what is there. And if we are seeing multiplicity or if we are seeing plurality, all this is because we are not seeing the essence of the material, but the superficial qualifications or names and forms. Bhasaha, Vyapya vyapaka adi pratibhasaha karyabhutaha anyaha swakaranat atiriktaha kadam bhavet na kadamchit iti arthaha. So here an interrogation question is being asked to the opponent in the form of a negation. That is, the appearance, basaha, vyapya vyapakata adi pratibhasaha. The appearances, pratibhasa means appearances, such as pervader and the pervaded as a relation. Karyabhuta is an effect. How can it be, the effect be anyaha, swakaranat atirakta, from its own cause? So like that, the mud pot cannot be different from the lump of the mud from which it is becoming. Same way, Brahmana, from the Brahman, when the intelligent cause and the material cause both being the same, how can there be anything other than that which is appearing as the names and forms? Swakaranat atiriktaha, from its own cause. That is, Brahma is the cause from which these appearances are coming. How can it be separate from the Brahman? If that is, how can the pot be separate from the lump of mud? How can the gold ornaments be separate from the gold? Or how can the waves and the cloud, etc., be different from water? Kadam na kadamchit bhavet ityarthaha. It never can happen, because we saw the examples which have been mentioned, that it can never be different from the cause from which they are appearing. So therefore, there is no multiplicity whatsoever is applicable in the case of Brahman, can be now taught from the point of view, from a lump of mud you make 10 items. All the 10 items will have different names and forms. But can they be different from the mud? Or same way from a bar of gold or a lump of gold, you create all sort of ornaments, right from the rings to the bangle to the bracelet to the garland or the chain or the tiara, etc. They may all look different. They may all have different purposes. They may all have different names and forms. But are they different from gold? The inseparability of the gold from them is understood only when you say, can you imagine they existing without the gold? When we know that they no existence apart from gold, which gold itself is what is becoming as a ring or the bangle or the bracelet, etc. Same way, that awareness which we think, this is a place where we may all get into a trap. We are all aware of only one awareness. That is what is happening in our mind. Through the mind, we have cognition or knowledge of things. What we are having knowledge is the details of the objects and including the subject. I can say that I am a man, I'm old, from which place or where I am now. All those things I am referring to my physical body and my experiences of my being, of being. But the awareness in which this is happening to me, that awareness is not a mental awareness. It is a substratum awareness. The awareness which is being experienced by me as I am a male is a knowledge of my physical body in the awareness. That awareness in which it is happening has no separation from my male and my age difference, which is depending upon the qualities of the physical body. But the awareness in which they are happening, they cannot be different. It is the same awareness in which all activities of the subject can be attributed or depending upon. That is why they are called both intelligent and the material cause. We are not able to objectify that, because the moment we start to objectify our awareness, we need a content in that. Now, awareness doesn't have a content, but awareness is the one in which the content seems to be appearing as names and forms. But the names and forms cannot independently exist. It needs a substratum. This substratum, what we see in the objects, is the same as the substratum which I feel myself, I am. Is the same experience or the same awareness which is there in the objects. But I am not able to see that aspect of awareness because I cannot see myself. It is one and the same. That is why the awareness can never be bifurcated or divided into parts. It is just like that the light in which multiple objects appear. You light a lamp in the room. Multiple objects appear in the light. But you rotate the lamp, still the objects will remain in its own place, but the light which is emitting, the rays which is emitting from the lamp may be going through changes. But the awareness with which we are able to see the objects in the room, that doesn't undergo any change. Even when the light has changed, the objects lit by different rays have changed. But we are unable to see that changes because our eyes can see only the objects, not the change of lights. Same way, our sense organs cannot see the awareness in which my existence is there, the existence of the objects are there. It is because it is the light of awareness from me or not from me. It is the light of awareness in which I am also existing and the world of objects is also existing. What is being experienced and subjectified is that I minus I as an ego and individuality. And the same thing is the one which is being felt by the objects. Their individuality is the one which I am seeing, but they are not their essence. So that essence in which they depend upon their own names and forms can never be an object, because that is the very knowledge or the awareness in which these things can happen. So it is never a what you call objectifiable item, separate, because I have to be separate from awareness. Can I be aware from awareness to know awareness? No. My knowing is taking place in my awareness only. So I can never be said to be separate from awareness. Therefore, I can never know my own awareness. So that being that, then we'll go to the 48th verse, which is talking about similar thing. Dosho api vihitaha shrutya mrityor mrityum sagacchati iha pashyati nanatvam mayaya ganchito naraha. Yo naraha, the person, whoever so he may be, mayaya vanchitaha, he has been deceived by the maya or the illusion or the appearance of the names and forms. Iha nanatvam pashyati. Therefore, he sees the multiplicity or the variety here. Saha mrityum gacchati. One who sees this multiplicity, that I am separate, the world is separate, the objects are separate, you are separate, I am separate, and all these type of separatedness. Yaha nanatvam pashyati. One who sees the multiplicity. Mrityum sa mrityum gacchati. Śrutya dosha vihitaha. The scripture is now very clearly pronouncing that this is the defect because of your seeing a multiplicity. That is why you feel you are also multiple in nature. Like each birth is separate. This birth is separate, and I had previous birth, and I will have many births again. All this is because when I'm seeing the multiplicity. When the unity is seen, in unity, how can there be multiplicity? Therefore, when we realize that we are Brahman and the world of objects is also Brahman, the one which is in the deep sleep is the one which is now becoming the waker, and is the one who is becoming the dreamer, projecting the waking world and the dream world. All the projections are all coming from the same Sushupta, or the one who is indefined or undefined in the state of deep sleep. He has no way to be defining himself, because he is himself without any potency to see multiplicity or aware of multiplicity or know multiplicity. This absence of multiplicity is our Swarupa. That is why Sushupti is considered to be our true nature. And from the Sushupti, from that deep sleep, the I individuality is projected as a waker, and the waking world is projected by the same potency where multiplicity was pregnant yet not visible in the deep sleep. The same thing projects the individuality of the dreamer and the dream world. We are able to identify that the dream world, the dreamer is a projection and the dream world is unreal. But we are unable to do that in our waking, because when we are in waking, we cannot do that. We have to get out of the waking, our association with the waker, that I am the waker. That is the only time when we can get out of that association and feel that it is as good as dream. So both the dream and waking will become identical only if you are able to de-identify ourselves from the thinking that I am the waker. Is this possible? Very much possible, because we were not the waker before we woke up to the waking state. What was the state in which there was no multiplicity? So that knowledge, that what was that in which I didn't have multiplicity, is my true nature. Therefore, even the I becomes an object for me. The individuality becomes an object. Is no more a subject to me when I identify with that one which is not having multiplicity. If I observe my identification with my physical body, mental body, etc., Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, all those 5 sheets which has been defined in the Taittiriya Upanishad. And then when I know that, when I am acting at the mind level, I become the mental person. When I am acting intellectually, I am the intellectual person. Like that, when I am physically identifying, I become the physical entity which is doing the physical activity. So we can always de-identify one, even in waking, from one another. When you are sitting quietly in a place and mentally you are traveling to your office or some other place where you want to be there after, some time or some holidays and things like that, you are virtually ignorant about your position, location, where you're sitting and, your physical body. You are identified with the mental body and you transfer yourself, or you transform yourself as a mental person to a different level. This capacity of the mind this capacity of the awareness to independently shift ourselves and look at ourselves as separate from the, what do you call, the experiences at individual level or the physical level what we are experiencing, or the mental level what we are experiencing. We know that the personality is changing. Personality in the sense, the identification with our activity. Not that nature of the personality, like, he is a nice person, bad person, good person. Not that type of a personality. I'm saying that identification with the activity. We are a mental person, we are an intellectual person, and like that, when we are able to dealing from one another, we are unknowingly able to de-identify ourselves from the physical to mental to intellectual to these rotations, even in waking. But we are not able to know who is that which is de-identifying and moving from physical to mental to intellectual, etc. Definitely there must be something. Unless that is there, we will not be able to. It cannot be the same thing. It cannot be the same time or the same, what you call that, the same individuality which is the waker as a physical body is the same individuality as the mental body. It is different. But the substratum in which it is happening, or the knowledge or the awareness in which this is happening, cannot be known, because the light by itself cannot know the light. Na deepasya anya deepecha. You don't need one lamp to see another lamp. Same way, the awareness can only, illumine what is being experienced. It can never illumine itself. But here is an inference. That is definitely an inference that we are all awareness. Now, if we have an inference of this nature, how do we perceive or how do we cognize that awareness as my nature? This is what is Aparokshanubhuti is all about. How do we do that? You don't have to do that, because you are that now. Tadu tvamasi. What is being done is that you are holding on to the physical, mental or intellectual or other personalities. Therefore, you are not able to be in your own true nature. When we leave them in the waking dream and deep sleep, or in the status where we do not experience anything, we are really experiencing ourselves, but it is not an object to be experienced. It is neither a subject where it has a subjectivity to know. That, when every subject has a feeling of subjectivity, that I am the subject and everything else is. Even that is not there. That is why neha nanasti kinchana. There is nothing which you can say multiplicity here. When we say deny that, ekameva dvitiyam, the only one and the only one truth of the reality being non-dual, is the only reason why it is happening this way. And this is exactly what the previous verse ascertained to us. And here in this verse, one which is ascertaining is that if you have not got that assertion from the previous verse, you will be nothing but a mortal being who identifies himself with the physical body, which is gone through the 6 vikaras, shat vikaras, like, janma, asti, vardade, viparinimate, apashyate, nashyati. That is the birth, existence, growth, decay, and death. When these things are happening, I am saying I am becoming old now. I am becoming, old and decaying. My body is decaying. I am losing my teeth. I am losing my hair. I am losing my vision. So I am becoming reduced in my capacity because I'm identifying with the body. And therefore I have death. And if I die, the reason I'll be born again. This birth and death is an illusion which is being created with the association of the body. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit. Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha. Ajo nitya shashvadoyam puranaha na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that na jayate mriyate va kadachit. This you or this individuality or that one which is not identifying with the waker, dreamer or deep sleeper, that is na jayate, is never born. Birth was for the individuality and the personality, etc. You are never born. Therefore you are na mriyate. Therefore you have no death also. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam. Ajaha means without birth. Shashvataha, eternal. Puranaha means even though old, pura nutana eva. Even though it is time immemorial, it is always new. Means nityaha or fresh. It can never become old. So, because it is there, ever existing. That is the only thing which is existing, means it can become old, we have a feeling. Therefore, time and space is a concept which is denied here, saying that we are the same, even though we are existing for, before the mind can even conceive of the time, it is never becoming old. Pura nutana eva. That is Purana. So this is how we'll study more when we go to the Bhagavad Gita class about it. And then one who thinks that he is identified with this physical body is the one who will go through again and again into birth and death. Brahmana sarva bhutani jayante paramatmanaha tasmat etani brahma eva bhavanti ityavadharayet. Now here he is giving the final instruction. Brahmanaha yataha, just as Brahmanaha means from Brahman, which is Paramatmanaha, which is nothing but the Supreme Atman, Brahman, both are being identical. Sarva Bhutani Jayante. All these creation, Bhutani means creations or beings, Jayante are appearing or born. Tasmat, therefore, Etani Brahma Eva Bhavanti. Iti Avadharayet. That is, what is born out of mud is mud, what is born out of gold is gold. Same way, all these experiences, awareness, and the feeling of the individuality and the subject and the object, any sort of dual feeling which we are having, that cannot be separate and independent, because they are all coming from one source, what is called the Brahma or Atma. Therefore, they are all some Brahma Eva. Iti avadharayet. This should be your firm understanding. Avadharanam means is a firm understanding. Clearly understand that. It has to be so firm that even when you are being asked, you should be able to answer it from the point of view of Brahman or Atman, not as an individual. Your answer may say as individual, but your knowledge will be of that you are Brahman. So when the answer is what you call mixed up with the individuality, the answer will go wrong, because you will be answering from the personality level or individual level. But if your assertion or if your conviction or if your knowledge is now established in this truth, any time, any point of time, anybody asking any question, the answer should be coming from the Brahman or Atman point of view. That is what you are. You can be saying that I am Bindu and etc. But your knowledge that I am Atman Brahman, and as Bindu appearing to you all, expressing it, will be known to me when I am expressing that. Same way, you will all, each one of you will know that you are Atman and Brahman, and your names and forms and transactions are only for the purpose of transaction, because they are all appearances from the awareness point of view. So the transaction is not a wrong thing. It is the understanding of the transaction as separated. That is what is creating the janma, mrityu, the birth and death and the bhaya or the fear, etc. in our life. That is why idara mandaram kurute atatasya bhayam bhavati. If you have even an iota of separation from Brahman, that you are not Brahman, then you will be subjected to the fear, etc. That's why Dvitiya Dvai Bhayam Bhavati. In the Brihadaranya Upanishad, it said that. From the second, the feeling of the otherness, Bhayam Bhavati, is the reason why we have the fear. When we are alone, we are not afraid of anything, because there is nothing which can, conquer me, diminish me, or occupy me, or dethrone me. I am the king of all. I am the Swarad Bhavati. I become the creator of everything in this world, including this individuality which I am transacting with the every object of transaction as the objects is all but nothing but me. That's Sarvatma Bhava or Sarva Vyapakatvam. All that, what is the reason why we say that Sarvam Brahma Eva, Etani Brahma Eva Sarvani Bhavanti, iti avadharayet, is the firm conviction we all need to develop. And by repeatedly listening to these verses, the 50th verse onwards, we'll take it on the Friday. I'll stop the class today here. If there is any questions and answers, welcome. Otherwise, we'll close the room without much problems. We can continue the verses in the Friday's class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Binduji. I've opened the hand raising and the chat section. So Binduji said that we can have a few minutes. Jesse is coming up.
Namaskar. Hello, everyone.
Namaste, Jesse. Hello.
Namaste, hello. My joy is full. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I hope that your travels have been easy and beautiful to be with your gorgeous grandchildren. And that's just so lovely. I'm so happy for you. So here's my question. Yes. So here's my question. And the interesting part with you, Binduji, and even Prakash to some extent, is that I never have the question well formed. So I consider that to be a very good thing. But so here is what it's about. It's about space. It's about the Akash. It's about ether. And when you were talking about the space in the jar, in the thing, and for me, like, I don't even need to go back there, but here's my question. I experience that space has a connectivity or an intelligence, or can you call it, I might call it an encapsulated, like, information. And I just wondered if you could just speak to me a little bit about directing me how best to think about Akash, about space, about ether, in the fact that I'm now experiencing that there's information that can be picked out of here and here and here and here and here, and that there's so much available. So I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. It's a beautiful question. The only thing which the mind, our human mind, can conceive, which is indivisible at the same time, appearing to be divided, is the space. The space of room or the school, hospital, etc. We divide it and say that it by different names and forms. But if you look at it, they are all nothing but walls created for the different purposes, therefore different names. But the space which is in which they appear as no such specification, names or qualities, whereby you can say the space is now the house, the space, that space is a different space, which is a school or a college or a hospital. Even when we know that we are all rotating at such a high speed in the space as an earth, 1841 kilometers per hour is the speed at which we are rotating. So we are never stagnant in one place. Yet, in the space we are feeling the stability of one room. In the space we are feeling the stability of the hospital, etc. If the gravity has not been there, we will be all flying in the space.
That would be a chaotic mess, right?
Absolutely. And we won't know which space or what is space like also. Now we are able to define space because we have able to transact with the space. Therefore we say space separate. It's something similar. Imagine it's same that if the mind has not been able to convert our awareness into knowledge of objects, names and forms and everything, we will never know what is awareness. But the problem is that awareness which is known through the mind is not the awareness in which everything is existing or everything appears to be there. We have no idea how the total space will look like, because we have no means or measures in which we can even not imagine in which how will the whole space will look like. We have to go out of the space to look at the space. That is not possible. Same way, we cannot go out of awareness to know awareness. That is the relative way in which you have to look at it.
Yeah, well, that would be a hard thing. You can't go out of something in order to look back at it if you're in it. But there's something that's different that I'm trying to get at and I don't understand. And if it's not for this time, that's fine. That's fine, sir. But it's something about that there are information packets or information. There's knowledge and information in space that I can bring in, and it is a spatial aspect. It is a spatial awareness, and maybe that's not in this topic, but because you were talking about space today, I wanted to bring that forward. So I really appreciate you addressing this. Thank you.
Yeah, even space is in awareness. It is not that space has got many awareness or there are plenty of awareness in the space. It is in awareness. The space itself is in awareness. Therefore, we feel that there is plenty of awareness in the space, while many things which we do not know in the space, in the spatial way, because we are also part of that. That is the reason why we are not able to see that. If higher awareness had not been there, we would not be even knowing the space. Do you know the space in your dream, deep sleep? You don't know.
No, not in deep sleep, but I am super fascinated, and I would love for you to do a room someday on the what's the word? Permeability between dream awareness and waking, but that's another topic. But I'm sorry, let me stick to my question about space. I get the feeling and awareness that there's information packets in space for me to be able to be aware of, to pull in for certain situations that might be of relevance. And so that might be something completely different, but I experience space, the Akash, the ethers in that way as a place of energy and plenipotentiality. And I know Prakash and I have briefly talked about, the plant networks and the communication of microbiology and all of that. But there's just something behind the space element that I haven't quite been able to put my finger on. So I will happily say thank you and be silent and let other people ask. Many blessings. I'm glad you have arrived with your grandkids. Yay!
Thank you, Jesse. The question is that the Upanishad says that once you identify yourself with awareness, you be the awareness, then the space becomes inside you. Everything inside the space becomes yours. That is why knowing which everything becomes known, a statement from the Upanishad. Yat jnātva sarvam idam vijñātam bhavati. That statement has got this meaning that when you know that you are awareness, all knowledge is nothing but awareness. And they have contents in it. Therefore, you feel that they are all separate knowledge. The awareness is not separated. It is the contents which appears to be separated, like the room which is getting separated by the house, hospital, etc. The space doesn't get separated. Same way the awareness doesn't get separated. So if you want to know the packets, the spots and everything, become the awareness. You are the awareness. Know it. That is what the last verse said. Affirm on that. You be that. Then you will not have any more questions. Anybody else? Otherwise we can close.
Yes. Shall we give it a minute or so? I don't know if anybody
we'll give it a
else
minute. We'll give it a minute. Otherwise we can close down. Because it's morning for India and night for West.
Yes, Revati ji is coming up. Wendy is coming up. Namaste.
Hari Om,
Namaste,
Bindaji.
Revati. Hari Om.
Namaste. Bindaji, the seeing multiplicity, where I stand, it's telling, because seeing the multiplicity are also important when I do the neti. But how I am seeing this multiplicity, that's important, no, Bindaji?
Now, the thing is that multiplicity, if it is seen, we should know that the multiplicity is only attributions due to name, form and qualities, adjectives. They have to be dependent upon substratum on which these can be attributed. Like the name can be attributed, the form is attributed, the qualities or the adjectives of that is attributed onto something. Now that something you can reduce it when you do the neti. What you are doing is that you are trying to say that name of the pot is not the right, but then the name of the lump of the mud is correct. So you are coming from the name of the pot to the name of the lump of the mud. Then you go from the mud to further, you reduce it, it is saying the dust. So the dust becomes the next name, not the lump of the mud. Like that, when you do the neti for all objects, you will find that ultimately you will come to that you are the one who is negating. There is nothing more to negate. That is what is called the Bādhavati, or the end of negation. And in the end of negation, you have even the idea that I am the one who is negating. Even that is a content of the knowledge or the awareness of negation. Even that will have to be dropped. And after that, what you cannot utter by a word, because the moment you open your mouth or you start imagining a word or anything in your mind, then you are back into the same system again of names and forms. That is why yato vacho nivartande aprapya manasa saha, what the Taittiriya Upanishad says, where the words fail to describe and mind returns without fathoming it. That is what it is. Therefore, this multiplicity is an attribution we are giving to a substratum which is known as consciousness, awareness, knowledge, Brahman, Ātman. It's all the same. It's only for the namesake we are putting some name there. Any name can be used there, but should not be confused. Therefore, the word Brahman or Ātman is used. That's all.
Yes, Binduji. And in previous shloka, mrityoho saha mrityum apnoti ya iha naneva pashyati. That what is the dosha he is telling?
The multiplicity. The seeing the multiplicity is the dosha. One who sees the multiplicity is in error of perception. That error of perception is the error what he is referring to. Dosha or the mistake. If you are seeing multiplicity, it's a mistake. You see the truth and know that multiplicity is a attribution to the truth, then you are not in the dosha. That is, you know it is gold, but you transact with the ornaments. You know it is a glass jar, so you will handle it with a care that it should not break. No, that knowledge that it's a glass jar will be always there when you handle it, when you see it. But the name of jar will remain there. So knowledge is one thing and transaction is different. So you will say that glass jar or the mud jar or a wooden jar, whatever may be that. That is where we know. But those are all physical examples. But in the case of awareness, you cannot say that way in separation, because awareness cannot be segregated. Whereas a glass, mud or wood can be separated, awareness cannot be separated. So everything is in awareness.
Yes. Now clear. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Revati. Namaste, Binti.
Namaste.
Namaste.
I just need to pause for just one moment and just acknowledging that it's time for you guys to go to sleep, so I'll attempt to be really focused here. So first, I just wanted to say, so glad I saw this room, and it's wonderful to listen to you and to be with you. And part of what you were sharing a little earlier stimulated an experience that I was confused about. Of course, the mind is the only thing that can be confused, so I acknowledge that. So like on the court of my life, I was at a skin clinic, and there was a number of us in the waiting room, and somebody got wind of some of the work that can happen through me. And so she called it a healer, and then she said, what kind of healing work do you do? And inside of this conversation, I had an experience of that I'm not a healer, and that when she asked the question, what happens for me in a natural way is I go completely silent when somebody asks me a question. It just happens that way. And then either something shows up, like what you were saying earlier, like I get to experience through the awareness what's being said, and there was nothing showing up to say. And so I could feel the uncomfortability over there because I wasn't giving her an answer. But the answer was nothing, because there was nothing showing up. So there's no words. And yet to be in the world and to have interaction with others when that kind of life force is happening, I find it a little difficult to want to feel like to give her the care and saying, I'm not trying to avoid your question. Literally what's happening for me is you ask me a question and I don't go up into my head to try to answer you. It just doesn't happen that way for me. What happens is you ask a question and then something shows up or it doesn't. And what's happening is nothing's showing up. I don't know what else to say. How would you approach that?
Well, from what I have understood from your saying that silence into which you are going is being triggered, and you are looking for the answer from the absolute point of view rather than from the transactional point of view. That is the reason why you are going into silence, because at that absolute point of view, words will not come out. It will be in pure silence. And it is very difficult to do transaction remaining that. We have to learn to live with it, in the sense that knowing that being the reality, when we are transacting in the world, when questions are being asked, or even when we do the answering, going, traveling, eating, sleeping, etc., all those activities are there. That is for the different bodies through which we are knowing the absolute. But when we do not see the absolute in that knowledge of eating, sleeping, and traveling, etc., we will think that your physical body or the individuality is undergoing these changes. But there is nothing of that sort really happening. It is a projection of awareness itself. That projection which is here in the waking is different when it is in the dream. That is why we may dream. In the dream we have different experiences. We may remember, we may not remember, depending upon what time of the day or what time of the sleep we are dreaming. Most of the dream are not remembered. And even what we remember, we know they are not real, because from the waking point of view, we can cancel it. Now you are cancelling this waking also when questions are being asked to you and you are not identifying with the person to whom the question is being asked. That's why you become silent. Now this is a problem for others, but not for you. If you become silent, you become silent. That's it. It is not necessary that you have to answer that. If you want to answer, that answer will definitely be prompted by the same awareness, but through the mind. That is only the difference.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venti, for your wonderful question. Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll close.
Sure.
We'll
Anybody else coming up?
on Friday. We can meet.
Anybody else? If you want to come up, we'll give you another 30 seconds. If not, I'll try to summarize that, the shift in new schedule, we're going to meet. The next room is going to be 6:30 IST on Friday. And so the Monday room again is going to be Aparokshanubhuti, right, Binduji?
Yes. Monday
Yes.
also will take the Aparokshanubhuti.
That's how I've scheduled it. So we'll go with that. And the replays are available on Advaita Retold YouTube channel. They catalog very well there. Or if not, you can catch it up on replays here, which I'm sure a lot of the earlier participants in the other rooms will catch up. And if there are no more questions, I think I'll thank everyone for attending. And Bindoji for especially taking time off in his traveling time and hoping that he's having a good time with his family and grandchildren. And I will pass the mic on to Bindoji to close the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasad. Thank you, Jesse, Revati, and Wendy for your questions. And thank you all for attending the room. We'll continue our classes on Friday and on Monday also. Aparokshanubhuti will continue because I don't expect any separate question answer session requirement for the Monday to be changed into a question answer day. We will see it from the participants if required. I'll stop the class early depending upon the crowd I see in the attendance. I may take half an hour class and leave 1 hour for Q&A. Otherwise, I'll do the class for normal 1 hour and give the half an hour for the question answers. Thank you all. Hari Om. Good night. Good day for all of you from India and good night for people from the West. Thank you.
Hari Om. Hari Om, Mataji. Thank you.
Hari Om. Hari Om.